The Big Bear is back as Marcell Ozuna's 3 extra base hits helped the Atlanta Braves take down the Cincinnati Reds 7-1 last night. We'll break down the victory, today's series finale, and the NL wildcard chase on this episode of Braves Today. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today for Thursday, September 19th. Your home for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. He's Christian Rauh. You can follow him on Twitter at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com, the Braves Today Substack. And Christian, we both dropped stories yesterday. I'm going to take credit here because...
As you should.
Yes, thank you. Marcell Ozuna entered last night's game with a 26-game homerless streak. He was batting .274 during that stretch. But since his last home run on August 20th, he had a grand total of 4 extra base hits, all doubles, 4 total RBI. So I dropped a big piece after our show went down yesterday about here's what's been going on during this homerless streak. And long story short, he was not seeing a lot of fastballs anymore. When he was getting them, because of that, he was sitting on breaking and off-speed stuff. And then when he did get fastballs, they were early in the count. He wasn't ready for them. And after that first fastball, he wouldn't get any more for the rest of the at-bat. So what happens last night? He goes 3 for 4 with 2 RBI, the 3 hits, all extra base hits. He gets 2 doubles, and then he also does this.
Rookie year for Schwellenbach, who for most people came out of nowhere. Marcell Ozuna, high, deep, left center field, at the wall, and gone! The home run drought is over. He had not hit one in 26 games, and boy did the Braves need that one. A big fly from the Big Bear to put Atlanta back in front 2-1.
So
Yes.
I think the takeaway here is slander works.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. It worked. Yeah. And how funny was it that every single one of those pitches at that at-bat was a fastball?
Tony Santillan, you need to
He threw him 3 pitches
Braves
outside the zone,
Today.
all fastballs. And then he decides, you know what? 3-0. Yeah, you need to figure it out. He didn't go ahead and read the email. And the 3-0, he gives him 97 in the zone, and he takes advantage of it. Ozuna looked really good last night. Hopefully that means more to come because there's 10 games left in this season. And if you're going to bat Marcell Ozuna in the 3 spot, which, as we talked about yesterday, don't know where else you'd put him or who else you'd put in that spot. But if he continues to do what he's doing right now, a guy who has carried this team, and we were reminded of that yesterday across all the comments on YouTube and our Facebook channel that Marcell Ozuna has led the team. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe it was just that. They talked about that. But regardless, he's on his way, hopefully, to be back to where he was at the beginning of the season, being an MVP candidate, right? That's what we need. We need Marcell Ozuna to be back to that MVP-like form.
Yeah, these 2 RBI give him 100 on the year. It is the second consecutive season that he has had 100 RBI. He is 2 homers away from 40 homers, which would give him a second consecutive season of 40 homers and 100 RBI. He is the oldest Braves player to have back-to-back 100 RBI seasons in the modern era. Fun fact there. The Braves have, the last guy to do it, I believe, was 06 and 07 Jeff Francoeur. If that kind of gives you an idea of the company that Marcell Ozuna is keeping with this. But he did address this last night, talking to the media after the game. He said, it means a lot. After last year, the rough start, this year started the way that I wanted, and I've kept it all year. It's been amazing and special for me. So really happy for him. And I do think, and we'll get into this at some point in time, I'm sure in the offseason, I really do think that even though they have too many options right now, and Jorge Soler has not looked great in right field, that there's no way you can not pick up the Marcell Ozuna option for next year. and just know that you're going to have one extra bat until somebody gets hurt. But it feels like an outfielder gets hurt every year anyway. But you can't let Marcell Ozuna walk for nothing at this point. You
No
have to
way.
pick up that
No.
option.
Yeah, you
Um,
have to. You can't give up that kind of bat. A guy who, as I mentioned, was an MVP like candidate for 85% of the season. So you can't let that walk when you have an option, because if you do, he's going to get paid elsewhere, and he'll probably go to a team that's going to contend against you most likely. And yeah, Soler did have a blunder in the outfield just the other night, but that's not enough to be able to say you'd be okay with moving on from Marcell Ozuna. I agree completely. You have to keep him next year. Have to.
Yeah. A guy that you definitely will have next year, and you're going to be counting on next year, Spencer Schwellenbach. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 2 walk to 5 strikeouts. And there's been conversation. I think I've done a little bit of it over on the Substack. We've seen it. We've had a little bit on the podcast about workloads, right? Talking about he's at 154 and 2/3 innings between the minors and the majors this year. It is by far the highest innings load of his career, and can he handle the workload? And we got some great video last night, him talking to the media after the game about all of the other starting pitchers come to his bullpens. They're watching his bullpens. He said Chris Sale fusses at him if he throws more than 15 pitches, and that he's really learned from these guys about how much effort to put into your preparation, how much effort to do in your workouts, your arm care techniques, and things like that, so that he can still be healthy and effective at this point in the season. And he said he still feels good, that he gets enough work done in the bullpens to make sure he's crisp and ready for his start, but he feels like he hit a new wave. And he's not worried about workload. If Atlanta makes the postseason, obviously, he feels like he can pitch through the postseason without any sort of issue. And so, I guess, how surprising is it this pitcher Schwellenbach is still able to be this effective at this point in the year?
Yeah, did you even have any idea that he'd be this good? Period. Coming from Double A to the majors, it was an impressive feat in itself. But the fact that you're getting what that was his 19th start of the season, I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card at all, let alone two or three starts. But other than really that Toronto game at the beginning of the month, where
Mhm.
he allowed 6 runs, I know 3 of them were only earned, but really, other than that, he's been pretty spot on for the last 2.5 months of baseball, Lindsay. He's looked really good.
Yeah.
I think he's got a 3, just over a 3 ERA between the last 2 months of baseball. He still hardly walks anyone. His strikeouts are high. It's really impressive seeing what he's doing. And might I mention, he's pulling a little Max Fried out of his hat as well. He's looking like he could be that next Gold Glove contender for the Braves. He made a really nice play on the mound yesterday, showing that former shortstop in himself.
Yeah, having played shortstop at Nebraska, the Max Fried had a couple consecutive Gold Gloves until last year. That streak was broken because obviously he missed a good part of the year last year, and they could contend back and forth for Gold Gloves for a little while, depending on how long Max Fried is still here. Obviously, that's an offseason conversation, though. We'll get to that. I do want to also get your thoughts on this because the 7th inning got a little bit nerve wracking for me. Atlanta had runners on second and third, and I didn't know if they were going to score because we saw this on Monday against the Dodgers. We even saw some of this on Tuesday against the Reds, where you'd get a leadoff guy on, it'd be a leadoff double or a triple in some cases, and not bring the guy in. And then Gio Urshela gets a 2-run single, gets it in with Whit Merrifield potentially coming in. Correction, with Ozzie Albies coming back on Friday. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but did it feel like Gio Urshela was playing for his job a little bit last night?
Yeah, I had that feeling a little bit. And if that's the case, then I hope he plays for his job every night, because he looked really good at the plate and he played really good defensively. If that's what needs to be to light a little bit of a fire underneath him, so be it. So I hope that's the case. I hope that's all it takes to motivate a guy like Gio Urshela. But you're right. When it came to, I believe that was the 6th inning in that game, Schwellenbach
Yeah.
had some traffic on the bases, first and third. And there was a beautiful bunt by TJ Friedel. You really couldn't stop it. Ellie De La Cruz on third base coming from home. Like, it was just a perfect play. It was a good baseball play. But I alluded to it in the takeaways a little bit, and I sent you a message as well. And on the side, I said, "Here comes the meltdown." I thought it was coming. I thought we totally were about to see the Braves looking good offensively, stepping up, and got a home run from Ozuna, and then all of a sudden, I thought the meltdown was coming, but it wasn't the case, and they held on. And not only did they hold on, they added some insurance runs, and they looked really good. Hopefully, moving into a series win here tonight.
Yeah. In just a second, we'll get more into some of the moving parts on this roster, as well as today's matchup and previewing this weekend. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay, Crosby, Christian, Rauh. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Crosby Baseball. He's at Christian S. Rauh, R-A-U-H. You can find all of our written work, bravestoday.com. That's where Christian has the takeaways from last night. I've got that Marcell Ozuna piece still up. Probably going to go edit it today to point out that he did get off the home run skid, thanks to getting some fastballs to hit there. So, again, slander works. We appreciate that. Okay,
Sure does.
so looking at today's matchup to start off, you had a really great thing that I had not realized. Chris Sale, who starts today, is making his first start of his career in Great American Ballpark. He's pitched against Cincinnati before, but never in this ballpark. Is the small dimensions of this ballpark, is that going to throw him off of his game? Or do you think at this point he's so locked in it doesn't matter where he pitches?
Yeah, I think he could pitch on the moon, or maybe from the show of Hey Arnold, that little spot right there. I don't care where he pitches. I think that he's locked in. He's ready to go. But it's really interesting little thought that is in his entire career, it's took him this long to pitch at all the ballparks, and one of them being American Ballpark being the final one. So yeah, I found it that quite an interesting little nugget. But it's going to be an interesting him and Julian Aguilar. I think I said his name right,
Aguilar,
because he
yeah, I
doesn't
believe
have
so.
a lot to look at on paper. What he has done, he's only made 6 starts so far this season since making his debut in, I believe, September, and a lot of them have not been that great when it comes to lengthwise. You've only seen him go 6 innings twice. He's gone 4 innings most of the time. And there was one time at the beginning of September where he didn't even make it out of the 3rd inning. So you hope to see something like that from the Braves with this outing here. Hopefully they can get to him early. Hopefully they can push to their bullpen and continue and rack on those runs. Hopefully we don't see another one of those games, Lindsay, where you scored 7 the night before and you score 1 the rest of the nights and go back to those peaks and valleys like I've mentioned so many times on this show. Hopefully we don't return to that. So let's not do that. Thank you. Maybe they'll read the email. Maybe you have to write another slander piece that talks about their offense again.
If I'm going to slander anybody, I think I'm going to slander Orlando RC in a piece to see
Smart
if that
move.
helps. Speaking of, and this probably, honestly, the way I should have done this structurally was put this up there with the Gio Urshela talk earlier. Do you think there's any shot the Braves start Whit Merrifield at third and Gio Urshela at short and give Orlando RC a day off this
I
upcoming
will say
weekend
this,
in
if
Miami with Ozzie back?
oh, in Miami. Okay. You know what? That's not a bad idea, especially if Urshela continues with the hot bat as he did last night. It's not a terrible idea. Urshela hasn't had a lot of time at shortstop. We've talked about that on the show before, but Arcia is struggling at the plate. And between last night when Sean Murphy and Arcia there, it seemed like there was just 2 outs in a row. It was a really tough time watching those two go back to back in the middle of the order. So getting Urshela maybe in there if his bat stays hot with Ozzie Albies, who's looking really good. I know we're going to talk about that in a second, down in his rehab assignment. I don't think that's a bad idea. And maybe since you talked about Urshela playing for his job, maybe giving Arcia a day off in Miami could light a fire under him just in time for the postseason. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be a welcome development because it's just been Orlando Arcia's, and I made this tweet last night and got a little bit of pushback for it. I said his at bats are becoming indefensible, and people were like, they're just now becoming indefensible. But it feels, and we talked about this I think yesterday about guys trying to do too much, and it feels
Yeah.
like he's one of those guys that's trying to do too much without the requisite skill set to get anything done when he's trying to do too much. When he was at his best last year was, hey, I'm batting 8th or ninth. They don't need me to produce. And so pitchers are just looking to get an easy out here before they have to face Ronald Acuna Jr. again. So they're throwing me strikes. They don't want to walk me because if I get on base, they got to face Ronald Acuna Jr. And so he was getting pitches to hit and he hit homers. He was doing all of that. And this year, obviously, it's not necessarily the same. But we talked about Ozzie Albies. He goes 2 for 5 last night. Both of his hits come off of righties, and I believe one of them was 100 plus exit velo,
105, yeah.
105. And so uh, you have a piece that's going to be coming out. I believe it's going to be ready for tomorrow morning when Ozzie gets activated, about Ozzie's very limited experience against batting righty against a righty. Because reminder here, he's not going to be batting lefty when he comes back. What he's done his entire career is he's batted right-handed against lefty pitchers and left-handed against righty pitchers. And he has a grand total, I believe it's said, of 15 regular season plate appearances as a right-handed hitter against a right-handed pitcher. But you dug and found that quite a few of those have been against position players, right?
Yeah, a lot of them been against position players, and it actually has only been six at bats in his entire career. And of those six at bats, has only been three different pitchers, and all three of those pitchers are either have been retired for some time, or a guy like Zach Greinke who just has not been in the league this year. So no one is an active pitcher that has thrown Ozzie Albies a pitch while he's batted right-handed in the league right now. So when he does come back, it'll be a first for the Atlanta Braves and for Ozzie Albies.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. And again, a lot of questions as far as how well will he look at the major league level, batting righty against a righty, the defensive alignment, how will you move guys around? Snit confirmed last night that they have not decided on what Whit Merrifield's role will be. As we said on the show the other day, Whit Merrifield's not going to play the outfield. He confirmed that himself. He said that that would be too much stress on his broken foot, which was obvious up front, but I'm glad he finally settled that speculation, because some of the Braves beat was speculating they could do that. So we'll see what happens. That's a problem for Friday, though. We'll figure that out then. I do want to talk real quick about the postseason and the potential of getting there, because Atlanta's postseason odds on Fangraphs are still just over 50%, 51.4%. But we saw last night Atlanta won, but every team ahead of them in the wild card, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Mets, all also won. And so you're in a situation here, 10 games left. How many of these games do you need to win to make the postseason? Do you have to go 8-2, 7-5, 9-1? What do you have to do, you think, to make the postseason?
That's obviously an assumption because it all depends on what the rest of the two teams, especially Diamondbacks and Mets, do. But I
Yeah.
would not be shocked if that number is about 7-3 and 8-2, and two of the three of those games have to be against the Mets. Might even be three of those games against the Mets. But the best thing that's in their favor right now, although they're down 2 games with only 10 games to go, is that their schedule is in their favor. The Mets and the Diamondbacks both hold some of the toughest schedules remaining in all of baseball. The Mets have the toughest with a 575 strength of schedule. The Arizona Diamondbacks at a 548. That's good enough for third toughest. The Mets are heading into Philadelphia, or heading out to take the Phillies. I can't. Is it in Philly? I can't remember.
I
And then
think
you
it's
get the
in Philly, yeah.
Diamondbacks going against the Brewers, who just clinched the postseason, right? So there's a lot of things going on with these other two teams that are in the Braves' favor, but they also have to do their part as well. That comes down to the offense doing their job. And if the offense doesn't do their job, you get another peak, Lindsay, then they're in trouble. And it might be just one more trouble issue and it's all done.
Yeah. Looking at Arizona taking on Milwaukee. Milwaukee has to gain 3 games on LA or 4 games on Philly to earn a bye. I don't think that's likely, but I think they're probably still going to fight for that. You may see a hangover lineup for Milwaukee today against Arizona. You may not. I don't know. But either way, I'm assuming that Milwaukee's going to keep pushing until the final weekend. And if the final weekend gets here and they haven't yet caught LA, which looks possible because LA has been really questionable pitching recently. We talked more about that on First Pitch, by the way. There'll be a link to that at the end of this episode. I think that's probably when you see Milwaukee kind of punt the last couple games to set their rotation for the postseason. But you need Milwaukee to keep pushing for a bye to challenge the Diamondbacks and take some games from Arizona. And then obviously, as much as we hate to say it, you got to root for Philly this week to take some from New York so that Atlanta is still within range next week when the Mets come to Truist Park. And I swear, if Luis Angel Acuna hits a home run to eliminate the Braves from the postseason, I am going to be so incredibly mad. It's going to be the worst. It's going to suck if that. I'm just going to put that in the world right now. If it happens,
Yeah.
it could happen, people. It could happen. If it does, it's going to be a miserable day in Braves country to know that Ronald's little brother put the Mets over the top. So just be prepared.
It'll be a huge dagger for sure.
That is a scenario that could happen next week.
Yeah, let's say it's possible, but let's manifest it out of consideration.
I'm saying it could happen so that we do the work now to make sure we don't get there. Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing, people.
Light some sage after this episode, after that conversation there. But yeah, when you look at this pitching lineup for the Phillies tonight, you got Taijuan Walker on the mound, and that's not something that you're really excited about going against the Mets Severino, who's been really hot. So yes, this is a Braves podcast. We are aware of it, but for the last 30 seconds of this show, it's Phillies today. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's go Phillies. I can't believe I just said that.
Come on, Nick Castellanos. We believe in you. Something bad will happen today, and you can respond to it, okay? This has been Braves Today for Thursday, September 19th. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment down below. Hit the notification bells when we drop the next episode. And until next time, this has been Braves Today.